Welcome back to the re-entry archive. Something was seriously wrong with my world. A Datura experience report taken from erowid.org. I was 17 years of age and had heard about a plant that would get you high. Some half-baked methodology was told to me about having to put the seeds into water. And this apparently separated the good seeds from the bad seeds by a process of sinking or floating. The distinction of bad seeds was understood to mean poisonous. Unfortunately, there was no clarity on whether the good seeds would float or sink. So this method would leave us with a 50-50 chance of choosing all the good or all the bad seeds. I decided it would be better to dispense of this method and just eat all of the seeds, thereby softening the blow of a possible poisoning. It was an interesting situation the day I ate the seeds. I was a boarder at my school and had a day off school, with virtually nobody in the dormitory. This was due to my exam timetable, leaving a few days free, at which opportunity most of the people went home. My home was too far away to justify this, so I stayed. I made an illegal journey out of the school grounds with a friend to go and buy some weed, but we couldn't remember the directions and got lost. We happened to walk past the Datura plant, which grows along the way, and I remembered I had some dried seeds in my cupboard at the door, so the decision was made to try some. I had a handful of seeds on a relatively empty stomach. It was winter. The first effects was a very dry mouth and an off feeling. About 45 minutes in, I decided to walk up to the school to obtain an energy drink and a pie at the canteen. The first mental effects were like being stoned, and I sat on the side of the road leading up to the school, enjoying it. My memory is affected from this point on, and so I can only give flashes as I remember things. After a gap in my memory, I got back to the dorm with the pie and the drink, but my mouth was too dry to swallow either. I went to the bathroom and discovered I was unable to urinate, and my eyes couldn't focus properly. These two things set me worrying for the rest of the day. Things took a cold and lonely and menacing character. This was only 10:30. I still don't know what happened to my friend, but apparently he didn't feel anything and drifted off to chill with some other friends, totally unaware of my situation. So negative introspection and isolation were in order, and I wandered off to the school's sports field. On the way, my foot seemed to slip through an oil patch on the grass, but upon inspecting the ground closer, there was nothing to be found. Somehow I registered that because my eyesight was affected, maybe I couldn't see the oil patch. The fact that the oil patch might not be real did not occur to me until much later. And so it was with my hallucinations throughout the day. I would take it for granted that they were real, but if it were proven unreal, it simply added to the negative, menacing backdrop of the whole scene. I would rather attempt to find the reality of the hallucinations than admit that something was seriously wrong with my world. The next memory is of a gigantic network of insect populations crawling in and out of a shadow which fell across a painted concreted wall. The image persisted for a long while until a banging noise interrupted my reverie, and I realised I was sitting on the grandstand watching people on the sports field. That kind of thing would occur repeatedly too. I would lose awareness and float inside a perception, somewhat pleasant, until it broke, and the cold loneliness would feel stronger with each return. The closest thing I've ever experienced to it is the delirious thoughts during sickness or a fever, but this was on a much grander scale. Somehow I remember hearing a banging noise and interpreting it as golf balls hitting the grandstand. I may have attempted sleeping, because I remember getting up from a lying position. The stands were metal and ice cold. I was astounded to find that my feet weighed near 8 kilograms each. Now the memory is flooded with conversations that I tried to add to, but found myself talking aloud to no one. An extremely lonely and confusing feeling. I remember a long conversation with a person, which was different in that he was vividly real, and I'm still tempted to think he was real, because we talked about the seeds and how I was high. It was just that this person had left school a year earlier. If it was a hallucination, then it was an awesome accomplishment of the human mind. At some point, I was in bed, watching my cupboard float up and down, and left and right and up and down again. Suddenly I felt the need to chase after a shadow that I saw from the corner of my vision. Some quick and sinister thing. Each time I turned a corner, it turned some corner up ahead. It zipped into a dark cavity underneath someone's bed. Scared, I got back to my blankets without looking under that bed. Spiders crawled underneath my blankets and up towards my face. Even with the dormitory so empty and the hostel masters on at the school, I was extremely lucky to stay out of trouble. There were signs that stuff had happened which I didn't remember. Like the grass down the back of my jersey, and posters that were found in the dustbin. Other things I remembered: showering and passing someone shampoo, and hearing the bottle hit the floor. There was nobody in the next stall to pass it to. And talking to people who would vanish into thin air. Visual ghosts at the edge of my vision. And small reveries in immersive visualizations. They all happened in front of that cold, awful, lonely emotional background. Even the frightening aspects were flat and lonely and cold. It occurred to me at some point that I was walking around hell. This feeling left me soul-stunned. A little bit of heaven floated down out of the darkness as I was exhaustedly drifting off to sleep. Some kind of book appeared with impressive clarity, like the ultimate reverie, and it wiped all traces of the cold and lonely away, leaving me struck with a fresh, smiling amazement. I remember nothing as to the content of the book, but to read it was the most satisfying thing in the world. I can't relate any experience to it other than religious ones. I could experiment with the book, like looking ahead from the line I was reading to the upcoming paragraph, to see if they'd be the same by the time I got to them. They would stay the same, though if I jumped ahead, words would appear all jumbled and unreadable. I could think to myself, I have to remember what I'm reading. This book has everything I need to know. But as soon as I got to the end of the page, I would wake up, with my hand shooting into the air, trying to turn the page. I would forget what I was reading instantly. Someone else I know has had similar experiences in Datura, despite my warnings. But the fact that two people could hallucinate something so similar and be so awestruck by it makes me think that it must be more than just a hallucination. I never told him about the book, so he hallucinated independent of any suggestion. My eyesight was still bad the next day, and without being able to study the previous day, I ended up with a 12% for maths. If you're going to experiment with anything, be clever, respectful, patient, and willing not to overdo it. My opinion is, don't try Datura. Try something else. The rewards are not worth the effort and the danger. I thought the book was excellent, but I will never go through that cold loneliness to get there again. Before this experience even begins, this traveller wrestles with several archetypes. The journey begins with recklessness. The traveller ingests a powerful psychotropic plant that he knows little about. Here we see an unconscious manifestation of the seeker. The seeker archetype looks for novelty, insight, and escape. If poorly integrated, these internal drivers can lead a traveller into danger and towards unnecessary risk-taking. This traveller explores an idea of bad and good seeds and their decision to eat them all. This moment embodies pure trickster logic, absurdity disguised as reason. In the midst of the experience, one of the dominant feelings is coldness, loneliness, and confusion. The dissociation from reality and inability to trust one's senses symbolises a deep ego death. The experience, however, is not cathartic or transcendent, but disorientating and alienating. Towards the end of the experience, the traveller encounters an ethereal book. This encounter is a redemptive and numinous moment. As if called for, the book appears spontaneously as a manifestation of grace and lifts the traveller's soul momentarily from the cold abyss. This is a classic symbol of revelation, akin to the tablet of Moses or the book of life. However, it remains elusive, and its contents cannot be remembered. Only the feeling of sacredness remains. Perhaps the revelation the self is trying to impart on this traveller is think twice before stepping into the unknown, especially when no preparations have been made.